Just want to start with a really simple question, because there'll be people watching this, listening, who don't actually know what the Elgin Marbles are and why they are so controversial. Could you just remind us?
Yes, well, these are beautiful works of art of antiquity that were obtained perfectly legitimately by Lord Elgin and brought over to Britain. They were obtained for the most, and then we can just see them there, utterly stunning. Obtained for the best of reasons, okay, and that's to conserve them and to preserve them, because at the time there wasn't a real sense of preservation. One of the interesting things about the Elgin Marbles, and I'm just looking at them there, is that they've become part of our own culture as well, because they've been in the British Museum since 1815. And if we're talking about returning them, and it's so depressing that this is back on the agenda again, but if we're talking about returning them, we're talking about returning them to a country, a nation state that didn't actually exist in its form at the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century, and it certainly didn't exist in the 5th century BC. So there's a kind of absurdity to the whole argument, which keeps coming up time and time again. It came up a couple of years ago in relation to Rishi Sunak, and it's back now in relation to Keir Starmer. If we were to take them back, agree to return them, one, they would be in danger again because they'd have to travel right across Europe, okay. But two, it would be an act of cultural vandalism because of all of the reasons I've just said. We'd be returning them to Greece. The independent Greek state was only founded in 1830. So why would we be returning them there when they're perfectly safe, culturally important here?
OK, but isn't this mainly to do with George Osborne and not actually Keir Starmer? I mean, yes, I think Keir Starmer should probably be getting in the way of this, but George Osborne, a man who, was allegedly a Conservative Chancellor for quite a while, is now fronting up the British Museum, isn't he? And he seems to be, the one who's working behind the scenes to make this happen. It's either some kind of epic attempt to undermine Keir Starmer, or as I suspect now, he has become a member of the old chattering classes. Well, he always was, really, wasn't he? But yeah, what's going? Is it George Osborne's fault, this?
Yeah, I think it's a whole load of things. Certainly, you can say it's George Osborne, and anything that George Osborne touches, is a disaster. But I think it's part of the broader cultural sweep, Patrick. I think it's this idea that it's perfectly legitimate to destroy our own culture, to do vandalism, to do violence to our own culture, and put other cultures absolutely on a pedestal. The irony is, of course, that Lord Elgin and the British of the 18th and 19th century were doing precisely that. They were putting this culture on a pedestal, and they were doing their best to conserve it and preserve it. And now we've got this ridiculous to and fro. George Osborne is at the centre of it. I agree, and it's just very sad that we're in a situation that we can't just.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I think you were beating me to it, because I was going to say, apparently this deaccession, if that's the word, so deaccession, so giving away something that belongs to the British Museum, would need an act of Parliament, which is why Keir Starmer would have to get involved in it. But is it a slippery slope? Because surely, as soon as Greece get these back, every other country around the world whose artefacts we show in our magnificent museums are going to go, can we have ours back too, please? You've set a precedent.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, but it's one of those things that I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about all of the other things, the stuff that's even more contentious, things like reparations, and it's looking at history, and it's trying to audit history. And I always say this: history's too messy. You can't put it right. It's not something you can do.